Hey YouTubers, I want to do a quick flick on a weird idea I had kind of late last night and decided to come out here and see if I could make it happen. I've been talking about buying one of those or making one of those Turbo Guard turbo screens. I watched a few videos on YouTube and I was like, well, they're not hard to make. So I thought I'd go online, do a little shopping first. Wow, when you buy the name brand ones, prefabbed units, they're quite pricey. They're a little bit proud of them, I guess. So I saw a bunch of videos that talked about making your own for 10 bucks or whatever, and I'm like, well, maybe when I'm at the store at some point, I'll gander at some of this screen material and maybe make one day. Well, have you ever just been in your shop, kind of looking around at stuff, cleaning up, because I was getting everything ready for trash and recycle day, and I kind of looked over and I thought, that stupid electric fly swatter that I got with a free coupon from the Harbor Freight, it has kind of a mesh material in the middle. I wonder if I could use that to make a turbo screen. Well, guys, yes, I will admit that I disassembled my, at the time I got for free, electric Harbor Freight fly swatter. And I was thinking, I think I can make this work. When you start these projects, you think, well, either work or it won't. So I started pulling this thing apart. And first I'm kind of feeling it and I'm kind of getting an idea what's in there. You got 6 or 8, let's see, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, now 5 screws. You just pull them out and this comes apart. Your D batteries are in here. Don't need that stuff anymore. When you first pull this out of the end of it, you're gonna have to kind of pull those wires off that electronic board, but since I'm not planning on reusing it, we're good. So then you just gently pry this apart with a screwdriver. First thing you're gonna find is this kind of open mesh, which, I mean, if you were just wanting to put something on a race car that you knew wasn't going to be in around anything too small, you could use this screen. I chose not to use this screen because the holes are a little bit bigger than what I wanted, and this is not stainless steel. That's the trick. That's the little caveat I was going to throw into my video. The outer meshes are made of steel. The inner, finer mesh, which we're going to get to here in just a second, are stainless steel. Upgrade. So, this, pulled it apart. Now, when you pull it apart, this will be on top of this. Sandwiched inside of these two pieces is this fine mesh. Then you have another one of those coarse ones on the bottom. If you wanted to use these coarse ones with a little bit bigger holes, maybe you could, slightly offset or cross these, and do some kind of a pattern. You could use both of them if you wanted. But in my application, those are going to probably end up in the trash, not using them. So basically what I did was took that fine stainless steel mesh screen, laid it out on a piece of cardboard. I took an old, I think this was a 4-inch inside diameter short filter. Just set this on top of this screen, went around it with black spray paint, then took just these shears or scissors, because this stuff cuts really easy. I use the outside diameter of this, I believe, is 6 inches. You could possibly do 5 inches, but then you're only going to have about a 1/2 inch of overhang, or it'll go over the outside of the turbo. But I wanted to try to use a full inch so it would pull it tighter on the opening when I put the ring on. But you just make your pattern, take your scissors and cut it out, make it as round as you can. So then, this is when I decided that I was being dumb by not making a video about it. So I went over there and I started hand forming this piece, just holding it. You know, people that have full use of both hands, it'd probably be a lot easier for you. But I basically took it over there and put it on the turbo and was trying to hold it and kind of work my hand around it to start forming it. Now, when you talk about a turbo guard, you're going to need your screen, and then a highly recommended but not mandatory is that black outer either rubber or silicone piece. So I made myself some notes just so you guys know where we're at on price. You know, I got my little electric flyswatter for free, but you can buy those at Harbor Freight. Hopefully everyone knows to go online and get your free 20% coupon anytime you go there. With your 20% coupon, $3.47. Now, here's where we're going to talk about that outer ring that goes around your actual screen and clamps to the inlet on your turbo. That does not have to have a T-bolt clamp. That does not have to be silicone. You can run just regular rubber, and that's what I'm going to get to here in a minute on how I'm doing mine. But you can buy a 4-inch inside diameter Fernco, like they use in plumbing, which will actually have 2 ends to it that'll come with its own clamp and rubber that you would just cut to create your whatever, you know, because turbos have different depths on that inlet. So you'll just cut a piece of that rubber off that Fernco that's whatever width you want. You've got 2 chances of setting it up right, because on that Fernco, which I found online for $8, you got 2 chances, or you could make screens for 2 turbos with 4-inch inlets. But I just want to make sure and point out that rubber around that stupid filter or screen does not have to be silicone, and it does not need to be a T-bolt clamp. All you need is a large worm, what they call worm clamp, to hold that thing on there. Now, if you want to, now it's going to add a little bit of cost, go online to Amazon or eBay or whoever you like to shop from. You can buy 4-inch, you know, get the shortest one and cheapest one you can find. Get a 4-inch inside diameter or whatever fits your turbo, and just use a pair of scissors and cut it out to whatever width you want. And then use a worm clamp if you want to spend extra money that you don't need. Buy a T-bolt clamp, whatever, and put that thing on your turbo. But what I did was pull this adapter out of an old filter. So check this out. Now this thing is really hard to put on my turbo when it's a filter assembly, okay? So let's just check this out. Oh, because here's my new one I'm going to keep in usable shape just in case I need to, you know, daily it out in the country or something. But see, this piece is inside these little short filters when you buy them, and they will push onto my GT45 turbo, but I mean, it's a fight. You got to really push hard and work it on, but you know it's not going to fall off. But it will fit on the GT45, which has that, I don't know, I think it's 4 inches and 4 1/8 inch, you know, outside on it. So here's the funny part. Once you pull this rubber thing out of the filter, it easily pushes onto the inlet of the GT45 because it doesn't have that metal restricting this anymore. So now all we got to do is push this onto our turbo and push this on the outside of it, then put our clamp on, and we'll have a turbo screen. At least that's my plan anyway. Let's find out if it works or not. All right, guys, we're back on the vehicle. Now I'm hoping, maybe praying a little bit, that I can make this work and not say any cuss words. So basically what we're going to do is take our little partially formed screen, and we're going to take our old used rubber part from our filter, and we're going to try to hit this as straight on, as straight as we can, and start working it. See if we can get this to go on without killing anything here. Hold on. I want to start over and make sure I'm where I want to be. All right. Like I said, this would probably be a lot easier if you had two good working hands. Let's see what we got here. Because this thing has kind of a weird bad spot on one side from being in a box covered with something else. So I want to make sure and get that down there on the bottom. We're going to try, I could have probably sprayed some silicone on this thing to help it slide a little bit better. But we're just going to keep trying. See if we can get this thing to go up on here. Because, you know, why not, right? Let's see. Whoops. Don't fall. Don't fall. Okay. Had to pause for a second because I dropped my little rubber piece. I think I got this thing started. Yeah. May have to trim some of this off. I don't know yet. But, wow. I can't get over how freaking nice that looks. And here's the added benefit I'm hoping to be able to show you guys. The way this little piece is made out of that little cheap cone short filter is it gives this thing a radiused entry into the turbo. Okay, now if anybody's familiar, when you have a radiused entry into your turbo, it actually facilitates or helps the airflow coming in. Yeah, and when you push this on, you know, keeping it straight and getting it seated, it really pulls that screen nice and tight. Dude, we might be on to a Harbor Freight turbo screen extravaganza. In a hair. Boom. There, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, is your super cheap Harbor Freight electric fly swatter stainless steel mesh screen turbo protector. I'm pretty happy with this harebrained idea I came up with. I'll trim off all my extra flyers there and throw I've got two of those clamps, and of course you want to take the pretty one. I got one that's got a lot of miles on it, and I got one that's fresh. And what I'll do is I will open up this worm clamp, probably not put that up where everybody can see it. Let's flip it over and make it pretty. I'll throw that on there, and we'll have a finished product ready to run down the road. So let me try to get that part done. Bet you thought I was going to leave you out of the fun part. So I'm going to be very careful. Try to trim off my flyers here so we can make it pretty. That is crazier than a June bug. Look at that. The fun part will be when I get to try to put it back on. Let's see if it goes back on near as easily as it came off. Try to trim those off best I can. Lord knows them things will cut me a new one. If I ain't paying attention, it'll get me. Try to get them things kind of rolled towards that outer edge. Say a little prayer that they're not going to give me a hard time trying to put this back on, but there ain't no way I was going to run it with that big mesh sticking out of the top. And I'm too OCD, some people call it anal, to let that stick out or scratch up my turbo by trying to cut it with a razor knife or something. But I'll try to reinstall this. Hopefully I don't have to go buy another $3.47 electric fly swatter. Okay guys, full disclosure on this channel. You can't just put it back on with the screen inside your rubber outer. Keep this a family show, keep them comments clean. So I just pulled that screen assembly, molded, back out of this rubber vehicle. Now I should be able to, in a regular world, just work this back up on there, which will tighten my screen again over the inlet like I want it. Let's find out if it works. I mean, it's tight. And like I said, if you had two hands to be able to work it, I think it would work a lot better. We're gonna get there. Let's see what we got here. There we go. Yep, it's gonna make sure, yeah, we're good. That thing tries to go a little wonky. There we go. Still got a few little stragglers. We'll tuck them in and pretend like we can make them pretty. Because the way I'm putting it on, I'm kind of starting at the bottom and trying to work my way up here, which apparently can give you a few stragglers. But at least now I know, and the longer this is on here, keep in mind, I've only had this on just that very short period of time when we were doing our test fit. The longer this is on here and the more heat cycles it goes through, the more it's gonna kind of set in that form so that you can take this on and off and reuse it. But I'm gonna pretty much guarantee you're gonna always have to start with putting the screen on, then your outer rubber piece, which is fine, doesn't hurt anything. Now all I'm doing now, guys, is just kind of going around this old wore out rubber piece and trying to seat it, because that inlet to the turbo literally seats up against a ridge right here on this rubber adapter ring for the air filter, and I'm just making sure that it's seated in that little groove all the way around before I put the clamp on it and call it a winning project, which is kind of cool. It's always neat when you have an idea and it actually works, which doesn't always happen. Anybody who's got a YouTube channel and you think they don't mess stuff up, that's because they're not showing it to you. But my whole thing was, I wanted to run without an air filter, but I was absolutely paranoid about something dumb, because I've heard about all kinds of different things getting sucked up in your turbo, and messing it up from, you know, depending on where your turbo is located. I've heard of some people that had their header wrap come loose on one end and get to flying around and get sucked up in the turbine or whatever, and I'm thinking, yeah, that don't sound like a good time. So I'm working and working, trying to figure out how I want to make this look. All right, guys, got a little intermission there. Just kind of getting this thing, I don't want to over tighten it, because all I'm doing is kind of sucking down that rubber to really bite down on that mesh and the outside inlet to the turbo. So you know what I mean, you don't want to strip it out or anything. So there it is. There is my Harbor Freight turbo screen. And on my particular application, I got lucky and ended up with a radiused inlet. But I really like it. I like it. I really like the fact that it's stainless steel screen and it's going to be functionally adequate for what I'm trying to do. And I do like the fact that the longer it's on there, the more it's going to form itself and probably ease the installation each time I take it on and off, because, you know, who knows? Yeah, might want to go somewhere and run a regular filter, but just know those little filters restrict the holy bejesus out of the incoming air if you're trying to race. Don't recommend that to anyone unless you're just wanting to go slow. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. That's how we're able to make a Harbor Freight electric fly swatter turn into a turbo screen to keep rocks and probably pretty good sized bugs, whatever, out of that turbo, and hopefully keep it making boosty noises for a long time. Please like, subscribe, and share. Hit up the comments. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions on different upgrades, different ways to improve it, maybe ways to save money. Who knows? We're all here to learn, and hopefully we're all learning from each other. Thanks, guys.